The Galaxy Council was old, older than the dreams of most living races. For thousands of years it had guided the stars, creating order where there was chaos. Species came, species went, but the Council remained. It was made of the wisest, most balanced minds from across the galaxy. They had seen wars that scarred planets. They had seen peace treaties that lasted for centuries. Nothing surprised them anymore, or so they thought. Then came the humans. At first, the Council only heard whispers. A young species from a small blue world, barely stepping into the stars. Compared to ancient civilizations, humans were children, curious, reckless, loud. Some members of the Council even laughed when their name was brought up. Too young, too wild, they said. They will either destroy themselves or beg us for guidance. But soon reports began to spread. Human ships were not the strongest, but they traveled far. Human colonies appeared on harsh worlds where no one else dared to live. Their explorers made friends with strangers, offering help even when nothing was promised in return. What caught the Council's attention most was not human technology. It was their hearts. The Varens, a gentle species of healers, told the Council how humans had saved one of their outposts from famine. With no gain, no reward, the humans gave away their own supplies. They smiled as if our survival was theirs. The Varen elder whispered. It was strange. It was beautiful. It was frightening. The Zalari, cold and logical beings of crystal thought, gave a different report. They had observed humans in war. They fight beyond reason, the Zalari said. Even when wounded, even when the battle is lost, they do not stop. They burn like a fire that refuses to die. This is not strategy. This is something else. Something dangerous. The Council chambers filled with debate. Compassion without logic leads to weakness, argued the Vectar delegate, pounding the table with a claw. They will waste themselves helping others. But strength without compassion leads to cruelty, answered a Varen healer softly. Would you rather share a galaxy with cruel allies, or with kind ones? The Council could not decide, and yet curiosity grew. The humans were unpredictable. They were capable of acts of kindness that defied logic, and acts of violence that shook even the most battle-hardened races. No single description fit them. They were contradictions wrapped in fragile flesh. One counselor described them in a single sentence. Humans are like the stars themselves, warm and life-giving one moment, burning and destructive the next. For the first time in centuries, the Galaxy Council felt uncertain. Still, they agreed on one thing. Humans could not be ignored. If they were to spread among the stars, if their voices were to reach every world, then the Council needed to understand them. Were they friends? Were they enemies? Or were they something entirely new? So an invitation was sent. Ambassadors from Earth were called to stand before the most powerful gathering in the galaxy. The Council chamber was vast, filled with voices that carried the weight of 1,000 worlds. When the humans arrived, they came not with an army, but with smiles and open hands. They stood small compared to the towering races around them, fragile compared to armored species, soft compared to scaled and metal-skinned beings. But when they spoke, their voices carried courage. We are young, the human ambassador admitted. We are not the strongest, not the oldest, not the wisest. But we are ready to learn. We are ready to share. And above all, we are ready to stand beside those who will stand beside us. The chamber fell silent. In that silence, the Council realized something strange. They were not looking at children anymore. They were looking at something rare, something powerful. A new question hung heavy in the air. Would humans become the galaxy's greatest friends, or its most dangerous enemies? The Council did not yet know the answer, but soon they would. The Galaxy Council did not have to wait long to see what humans were truly made of. Only a few cycles after their first appearance, the galaxy faced a crisis. The Varens, the gentle healers of the stars, were under attack. Their worlds were burning. A brutal warrior race had descended on them, raiding colonies, destroying cities, and enslaving the weak. The Varens had no armies. They had never built weapons meant for war. Their strength was in healing, not in fighting. Alone, they could not survive. The Council gathered to debate. Some argued for patience. We must not risk our fleets in battles not our own, the Zalari said coldly. If the Varens cannot defend themselves, then perhaps their time has ended. Others pleaded for mercy. We cannot let them die, the Varen delegate cried. Their people are healers, givers of life. If they fall, the galaxy loses light itself. The debate dragged on. Words filled the chamber, but no action was taken. The council was wise, but wisdom was slow. Every moment wasted meant more Varens died, but the humans did not wait. Without permission, without orders, their fleets launched. Human soldiers filled their transports, and human ships jumped into Varen space. When the first Varen colony saw human warships arrive, the people wept. Not because they feared the humans, but because they had thought no one would come. Yet here were strangers rushing to their defense, ready to die for people they barely knew. The battles were fierce. Human ships were smaller, weaker, yet they fought with fire in their hearts. Pilots rammed their ships into enemy cruisers when weapons failed. Soldiers held the line long after reinforcements should have arrived. They bled for worlds that were not their own, and when the smoke cleared, the enemy fled. The Varens were alive, saved by the hands of humans. News spread quickly. Every corner of the galaxy heard the same story. Humans who gave without asking, humans who fought with reckless courage, humans who refused to abandon those in need. The Varen survivors called them Brothers of the Stars. Children were named after fallen human soldiers. Songs were sung about their bravery. For the Varens, humanity had become family. But in the council chambers, the reaction was not simple. Some praised them. "This is proof," the Varens said. "The humans are a gift to the galaxy. They bring hope where we had none." Others frowned. The Zellari were the first to speak against them. "Do you not see the danger?" They did not wait for orders. They did not ask for approval. They rushed into war with fire in their blood. Today they fight for the Varens. Tomorrow, who will they fight against? What happens if their fury turns upon us? The chamber fell into uneasy silence. The humans had proven their loyalty, but also their unpredictability. They were willing to sacrifice everything for friends. But what would happen if those friends became enemies? The human ambassador, when asked, gave a simple answer. "We did not come for power. We came because it was right. If you call us your friends, then know this. Your fight is our fight." The words struck deeply. To some they were inspiring. To others they were terrifying. For the first time, the Galaxy Council began to see the truth. Humans were not like any other race. They were not bound by cold logic or ancient rules. They were bound by something else, by loyalty, by love, by anger, by fire. And fire, the Council realized, could warm you. Or burn you to ash. The Varens embraced their new friends with tears of joy. The Zellari sharpened their suspicions like blades. The Council itself stood divided. But one thing was certain. The galaxy would never again ignore the humans. The humans had earned praise from many after saving the Varens. Their bravery had inspired songs and their loyalty had moved hearts. But not everyone in the galaxy saw them as saviors. Some watched carefully, waiting for proof that humans were not heroes, but something more dangerous. That proof came sooner than expected. The Dravik, a small but cunning species, had signed a trade pact with Earth. On the surface, it was simple, exchange of resources and technology. But the Dravik were known for their tricks. Their leaders valued profit above honor, and soon they saw the humans as easy prey. They broke their promises. They stole shipments. They sold human goods on black markets and laughed in secret at the naive newcomers. To most species, betrayal of this kind was common. A quiet word in the council, a stern warning, and perhaps a fine. This was the way disputes were settled. Wars were avoided, balance preserved. That was how the galaxy kept peace. But humans were different. When word reached Earth, the response was not silence. Fleets were mobilized. Soldiers were armed. The humans did not send diplomats first. They sent warships. The Dravik homeworld trembled when human fleets appeared in orbit. Their defenses were strong against smugglers, but they had never faced an enemy who came not for profit, but for justice. The bombardment was swift. Cities crumbled, factories burned. Human soldiers landed on the surface, tearing down the banners of the Dravik lords. For every stolen shipment, for every broken word, the humans answered with fire. The galaxy watched in shock. Within weeks, the proud Dravik were broken. And yet, when the war ended, the humans did something stranger still. They rebuilt. Human engineers worked to restore power to shattered cities. Human medics treated Dravik children, feeding them from their own supplies. In one breath, humans had destroyed, and in the next they had healed. To many in the council, this was madness. How can they burn a world, then lift it up again? asked a Vectar general, his voice sharp with confusion. Because betrayal cuts deeper than war, the human ambassador explained before the council. His face was calm, but his eyes carried a fire that unsettled even the strongest leaders. We protect our friends with all our strength. But if someone betrays us, we do not forget. We do not forgive easily. That is who we are. The chamber fell into heavy silence. For the Varens, this truth was painful. They saw humans as family, but now they realized that family could also punish. For the Zilari, this was confirmation of their darkest warnings. They had said all along that humans were fire, and now everyone had seen it with their own eyes. The council was split again. Some argued that humans were dangerous, too quick to anger, too willing to destroy. Others said their passion was what made them trustworthy, for who else would fight so hard for loyalty? The galaxy began to whisper. To some, the humans were saviors. To others, they were executioners. And perhaps in truth, they were both. On the ruined streets of the Dravic capital, a young Dravic child once asked a human soldier, "Why did you save us after hurting us?" The soldier knelt down, his armor scratched and his voice weary. "Because we don't hate your people," he said softly. "We hate what your leaders did. We don't destroy because we enjoy it. We destroy because we must. But when the fight is done, we try to make things right again." The child did not understand, not fully. Many in the galaxy did not. But the word spread. Humans were not like other races. They could be your greatest shield or your worst storm. The Dravic had learned this truth in fire and ashes, and the council, watching from afar, grew restless. For they now knew that the humans would not just follow the old ways of balance and caution. They would carve their own path, one of loyalty, one of wrath, one of contradictions. The question that haunted every council chamber was no longer, "What are humans?" It was now, "What will they do next?" The galaxy could no longer ignore the humans. Their name was spoken in markets and palaces and war councils and even in children's stories. To some, they were heroes who defended the weak. To others, they were a storm that could not be controlled. The Varens adored them. In every Varen city, statues of human soldiers were raised. Songs were sung about the day when strangers from a far world came to save them. Varan healers called humanity the family we did not know we had. But the Zilari saw something different. Their minds were built on logic, not feeling. They studied human battles with cold eyes. They recorded every fight, every decision, every act of kindness and cruelty. What they found only deepened their unease. "They are inconsistent," the Zilari delegate declared before the council. "They are loving one moment and ruthless the next. They fight for others without reason, yet destroy entire cities when betrayed. They are not predictable. That makes them dangerous." The chamber fell into argument. The Varens rose to defend their friends. "You call them dangerous? Then so is the sun, for it warms us and burns us at the same time. Would you rather live in darkness?" The Vectar, a warlike species, laughed harshly. "You are blind. The humans are not suns. They are fire. They will burn through everything if they are not controlled." The debate stretched for days. No decision was reached. For every species that loved humanity, another feared them. And the humans? They lived as they always had, exploring, trading, making friends, and, when needed, fighting without hesitation. But fear has a way of growing. Even in silence, some council members whispered in secret halls. They asked questions no one dared to speak aloud. What if humans turn on us? What if their anger is pointed not at the Dravic, but at us? Could anyone stop them? The Zilari answered with a grim voice. No. If humans ever decide the council is their enemy, nothing will save us. Not fleets, not treaties, nothing. This fear spread like a shadow across the galaxy. The Varens noticed it too. Their friends were being watched more closely, as if every smile and every handshake carried a hidden blade. It hurt them deeply, for they knew the warmth of humans. They had seen their compassion with their own eyes. But no amount of songs or statues could erase the doubts of others. In time, even the humans began to sense it. They saw how meetings grew colder. They saw how allies hesitated before speaking. They noticed how every action was judged twice, once as kindness, once as threat. The human ambassador stood before the council one day and spoke with tired honesty. "We know you fear us," he said. His voice was calm but heavy. "You see how we protect our friends and it frightens you. You see how we punish betrayal and it frightens you even more. But understand this, we did not come to rule. We came to belong. We do not want to be your enemies. But if you call us friends, then you must accept all of us. The fire and the warmth both." His words hung in the air like a challenge. Some nodded, moved by his honesty. Others shifted uneasily, refusing to meet his gaze. The divide between love and fear only grew wider. The galaxy now stood at a crossroads. To some, humans were the greatest hope for unity. To others, they were a ticking storm, waiting for the moment to strike. In the quiet halls of the council, one truth became clear. The galaxy had not yet decided what humanity was. Friend or enemy, light or shadow, warmth or fire. But one thing was certain. Whatever humans were, they would change the galaxy forever. And deep inside, even those who loved them could not deny a whisper of fear. The Galaxy Council's fears were still fresh when the greatest danger of all came. From the dark edges of the galaxy, a vast enemy fleet emerged. They were called the Cairn, a race of conquerors who had slept for centuries only to rise again with terrible hunger. Their ships were larger, stronger, and faster than anything the Council had faced. World after world fell before them. The Cairn did not ask for surrender. They demanded silence, and those who resisted were erased. The galaxy trembled. The Council gathered in panic. Every species was desperate yet divided. The Zilari, once so proud, admitted defeat. "We cannot stop them," their delegate said, his crystal voice sharp with despair. "Our fleets are shattered. The Cairn will consume us all." The Varens wept, for they had no soldiers to fight. The Vectar pounded their claws on the table, demanding unity. But even they knew that raw strength would not be enough. Then someone whispered the question that all were thinking, but none dared to say aloud. What about the humans? The chamber grew quiet. Humans had proven they would fight for friends. But they had also shown their fury when betrayed. Would they answer the call? Or would they watch the Council burn, remembering the fear and doubt that had surrounded them? The Council sent a message. No demands, only a plea. "Humanity, the galaxy is falling. Will you stand with us?" On Earth, the answer was swift. Fleets were prepared. Soldiers stood ready. But there was no list of conditions, no price, no demand for power. Instead, a single message was broadcast to every corner of the galaxy. The galaxy stood with us when we were weak. Now we stand with you. Together, we will not fall. The word spread like fire through the stars. When human ships arrived on the battlefield, they did not come cautiously. They came like a storm. They carried banners not of conquest but of unity. On every channel, their voices shouted encouragement. "You are not alone. Fight with us!" The Varens watched in awe as human fleets shielded their colonies, even as their own ships were torn apart. The Zilari, once so fearful, were stunned as human soldiers landed on their broken worlds, fighting side by side with crystal warriors as if old grudges had never existed. Everywhere the Cairn advanced, humans stood in their path. The battles were brutal. Entire human fleets vanished in fire. Soldiers gave their lives by the thousands, but their courage spread like a living flame. Races that had once distrusted each other now fought shoulder to shoulder, united by the humans who refused to give up. For the first time in history, the galaxy was not divided by fear, but bound together by loyalty. The Council watched with wide eyes. They had asked for help, expecting hesitation or bargaining. Instead, the humans had given everything without question. One Varen healer, standing among the ruins of a battlefield, whispered, "We called them dangerous. But perhaps it is this danger that saves us now." The war raged on, but the Cairn began to falter. They had expected to crush divided species, not a united galaxy. They had not counted on the humans, who fought not only with weapons, but with hearts that refused to surrender. In the end, it was not just ships and armies that turned the tide. It was loyalty. It was the fire that made humans fight for others as fiercely as they fought for themselves. The Council had feared that loyalty once. Now they clung to it as their only hope. And in that moment, even the most doubtful voices were forced to admit humanity was not just another race among the stars. They were something else entirely, something the galaxy would never forget. The war against the Cairn was long, brutal, and heavy with loss. For every victory the galaxy won, humans paid a terrible price. Their fleets, though brave, were smaller than those of ancient empires, yet they always chose the hardest battles. Human ships were the first to arrive at burning worlds and the last to retreat. On planets under siege, it was human soldiers who held the lines when others broke. They fought with desperation, not because they sought glory, but because they refused to abandon those who called them friends. But every act of loyalty carried a cost. Entire human fleets were destroyed. Colonies sent their young into battle, and many never returned. Families on Earth and across human space received messages of loss. Brothers, sisters, sons, daughters, all gone. Some colonies became ghost worlds. Their defenders sacrificed to keep the council alive, and yet, no complaint was spoken. No demand for repayment was made. Instead, human voices carried a single message. This is what friends do. The Varens, who had once been saved by humanity, now wept at the sight of human sacrifice. Healers from their worlds worked day and night to tend to wounded human soldiers. Some Varans even prayed to their ancestors, asking forgiveness for ever doubting their allies. The Zalari, once so fearful, watched in silence. They had believed humans to be reckless fire, but on the battlefields they saw something more. They saw soldiers fighting even when the chance of survival was gone. They saw engineers repairing ships while explosions tore the skies above them. They saw loyalty carried to the edge of death, and the Zalari were forced to admit this fire was not mindless. It was not chaos. It was purpose. It was love and fury, woven together. Still, the losses grew heavier. On one battlefield, a Varan child stood crying beside the ruins of her home. A human soldier, covered in wounds, knelt beside her. His armor was cracked, his strength nearly gone, but he handed her his last piece of food. "Eat," he whispered, even as his voice grew faint. "Live, that's all I want." He died moments later, and the child survived. Stories like this spread across the galaxy, breaking even the hardest hearts. When the final battle ended and the cairn were driven back into the void, the galaxy cheered in triumph. Fireworks lit up council worlds. Songs of victory were sung. But among the humans, the celebrations were quiet. Too many names had been lost. Too many empty chairs waited in homes across Earth and the colonies. The council gathered to give thanks. One by one, delegates stood to honor humanity's sacrifice. The Varans called them saviors. The Vectar, warriors themselves, bowed their heads in respect. Even the Zalari, proud and cautious, admitted that without the humans, the galaxy would have fallen. But the humans did not ask for medals. They did not ask for land or tribute or power. They asked only for peace. "We gave what we could," the human ambassador said softly. "We lost much, but we would do it again. Because in this galaxy, friends are rare, and friends are worth everything." The chamber fell silent. The council realized then the full weight of what humanity had given. They had not only saved the galaxy, they had taught it. They had shown what friendship truly meant, not as words in a treaty, but as blood on the battlefield. And yet, beneath the gratitude, a deeper truth lingered. If humans could give so much for love, what could they do if driven by hatred? If loyalty made them this powerful, what would betrayal make of them? The galaxy stood in awe, but it also stood in quiet fear, for the price of friendship had been revealed, and it was heavier than anyone could have imagined. The war was over. The cairn had been driven back into the dark, their fleets shattered, their hunger denied. The galaxy, once trembling on the edge of destruction, now breathed again. Worlds rebuilt, cities rose from ruins, and for the first time in years there was hope. But for humanity, victory had not come without cost. Their fleets were broken. Their armies were scarred. Countless families wept for those who would never return. Across Earth and its colonies, memorials rose, rows of names carved into stone, candles burning in silence, children laying flowers where fathers and mothers had once stood. The Galaxy Council called for a great gathering to honor the fallen and to decide humanity's place among the stars. It was the largest meeting in centuries. Every race sent their leaders. Every world waited to hear the verdict. The chamber was filled with voices, some heavy with respect, others still shadowed with fear. The Varans were the first to speak. Their elder's voice trembled with emotion. "Without the humans, we would not exist. They fought for us when no one else would. They are more than allies. They are family." The Vectar, proud warriors, stood next. "We once thought no one could fight with more fury than us. But we were wrong. The humans fight with fury, yes, but also with love. They are dangerous, but they are honorable. They deserve our respect." Then the Zalari rose. their crystal bodies glowing faintly in the chamber light. For centuries, they had spoken with suspicion of humanity. Now their voice was quiet, almost humble. We feared them because we did not understand them. We saw their fire, but we did not see its heart. Fire warms, fire gives life, fire protects. It also burns. Humans are both. Best and worst, friend and enemy. It is not weakness, it is truth. The chamber fell into deep silence. At last, all eyes turned to the humans. Their ambassador rose slowly. He was not dressed in gold or jewels, but in a simple uniform, worn from long days of war. His voice carried no pride, only tired honesty. "We know what you think of us," he said. "Some of you love us. Some of you fear us. Both are right. We are not perfect. We make mistakes. We get angry. We fight harder than we should. But we also love harder than we should. When we call someone a friend, we mean it. We will give everything for them, even our lives." He paused, his eyes sweeping across the chamber. "But betrayal cuts us deeper than any blade. If you betray us, we will never forget. That is who we are. We will be your best friends or your worst enemies. The choice is yours." His words struck like thunder. The council had heard many speeches across the centuries, but none so raw, none so honest. In that moment, every species understood what humanity truly was. They were not conquerors, not saints, not devils. They were something more complicated, something more real. They were the best and the worst. The Varens wept with joy. The Vectar saluted in respect. Even the Zilari, who had once feared them most, bowed their crystal heads. A vote was cast. The council agreed to welcome humanity as a full member, not as a child race under guidance, but as equals. The decision was not made out of trust alone, nor out of fear alone. It was made because the galaxy had learned the truth. Humanity could not be ignored, nor controlled nor dismissed. As the humans left the chamber, their ambassador whispered words that would be remembered for centuries. "We did not come to rule. We came to belong. If you stand with us, we will stand with you. That is our promise." And so the story of humanity was written into the stars, not as conquerors, not as victims, but as the race that taught the galaxy the meaning of friendship and the cost of betrayal. The galaxy would never forget, for the council had learned a lesson carved in fire and sacrifice. Humans make the best friends and the worst enemies.